A Mr. Lawrence Brownlow owned a lot of property in this area, and Brownlow Hill is named after him. This is the Adelphi Hotel, which stands on the corner of Brownlow Hill and Lime Street. It's actually the third version of this hotel to stand on this site, but we'll have a look at that maybe in another video. Now, in my opinion, we're just on the border of the city centre, and we're looking down Lime Street, and the old Lewis's building is on our far left. Before we start this video, it's probably a good idea to take a look at what Brownlow Hill used to look like. This photograph was taken from the roof of the Adelphi Hotel, and in its title it says it was taken in 1969. But that can't be true because there's no cathedral in this photograph. So I think this was taken probably in the late 1950s, but this is what Brownlow Hill would have looked like probably in the 1930s and 40s. I think this was the Brownlow Hill that my mum would have grown up in. I think this photograph was taken from the top of the Lewis's building, and it also states that it was taken in 1969. I think that's probably a pretty accurate date. I remember this scene very well. The Hertz rent-a-car building at the front of the photograph is where that spare piece of land was on the previous photo. The cathedral is in place, but the one thing that is missing is the car park, which sits on Mount Pleasant and backs onto Brownlow Hill. There are cars parked there, but the multi-storey is yet to be built. Let's move into the 1970s, and to the left is Brownlow Hill and to the right is Mount Pleasant, and the Hertz rent-a-car building has now disappeared and it's been replaced by this new modern building. Now, I remember this building. It was around about 1975 I think when it opened, and it started out as a beer cellar, which was a German-themed pub, and also a cinema, and I think the cinema was called the 051 cinema. 051 being the dialing code for telephoning Liverpool at the time. Now, during its lifetime it's been many things. It's been a roller disco, it's been several bars, a gym, a children's adventure centre, laser quest and paintballing. However, it's probably best known as the home of the 051 nightclub, and that was a popular basement dance venue through the 1990s, and it was eventually closed in 2005. Like many empty buildings, this one has suffered fires. The worst one, I believe, was in August 2022, so last year. This is what Brownlow Hill looks like today, and the junction with Mount Pleasant. I'm going to make a video about Mount Pleasant quite soon, and just going to get the energy together to walk up another hill. If I was a visitor to this city, I don't think I'd sit on the top deck of that tourist bus today. So the former 051 Club is going to be the starting point for our walk today. Now, the first thing we see as we pass the 051 Club is the multi-storey car park, and its entrance is on Mount Pleasant, but the exit is on Brownlow Hill. Now, I usually park here, and today I've parked on the car park of the Adelphi, which is opposite, just on our left here, which is just basically a wasteland. But I usually park in this car park. I've always found it quite convenient walk into town from here. You know, when I look at concrete buildings, I always think to myself, well, concrete never ages well. concrete always seems to turn into some dystopian nightmare scene. Now, this isn't going to be a video which is about the history of every building on this road, because if it was, it would be a couple of hours long. It's just really going to be an overview of Brownlow Hill. Now, if you haven't been here for many years, moved away probably in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, Brownlow Hill is going to look a very different place from when you last saw it. I would say that Brownlow Hill is now a place of learning. It's turned into a university hill where people come from all over the country to study various subjects, and this is one university building on the right hand side here. This building and some others bears the name Liverpool John Moores University, and John Moores, of course, was the owner of Littlewoods Pools. The houses on this road, which are reasonably new, I think they date from the 1980s, 1990s, replaced a lot of old Victorian property which used to be on this hill, and I think that's probably where my mum lived. Now you can see on the right hand side the location of the Metropolitan Cathedral. That's Liverpool's Catholic Cathedral, and this is really the back of the cathedral. The front and the steps up to the front door are on Mount Pleasant. And we're just going to take a look left here, and we're looking towards London Road, and just in the distance there you can see what was one of the answers to Liverpool's housing problem in the 1930s, and we'll have a look at that one day very soon. But continuing up Brownlow Hill, you can see the cathedral there. Going to have a look at that on the walk back. The direction we're walking in actually is the way many people leave Liverpool. This is one of the busy roads which takes you into Liverpool suburbs or onto the motorway to take you to other cities. In the not so distant past, as I said, this road would have been lined with Victorian houses, but there was also rows of shops as well. Brownlow Hill was known as a very busy shopping area, and on our way back, when we get to the top of the road, before we turn round to come back, I'll show a couple of photographs showing what that time in its life looked like. This building on the right hand side is Liverpool School of Art and Design, and next door to it, just further up, is the Liverpool Science Park IC2 building. In front of us here, this blue building, is the University of Liverpool School of Veterinary Science. Now I'm just going to swing the camera around to look at the Metropolitan Cathedral and one of its two pyramids there on the left hand side. I just find this cathedral really interesting. So a quick look at the University School of Veterinary Science once again. Just to make a couple of points about the cathedral and the photograph that was shown earlier. The cathedral opened on the 14th of May 1967. So as it wasn't visible in that earlier photograph, that's why that photo wasn't taken in 1969. Now on the left hand side here, behind these electric scooters, the veterinary school gives way to Liverpool University engineering departments, and we'll have a look at that when we get to an entrance which takes us into what's known as the quadrangle. This has been one of the nicer days we've had during January so far, but it's been really windy today. I'm sure the wind is being picked up by the microphone. So apologies for that if you find the wind noise annoying on the video. However, it has been a very nice winter day, and one of the things I do like about winter is trees. Building on the right is the foundation building and Students Administration Centre, and it also has a row of shops underneath, including Greg's, if you like pies and sausage rolls. Now on the left is the Victoria Gallery and Museum, and before that the Harrison Hughes building, and we're going to take a walk through this opening here into the quadrangle. There's quite a bit of maintenance work going on at the moment. It's been going on since I think last spring or last summer, and there's scaffolding everywhere, but this is the quadrangle. And as you can see on the left here, the Walker building, I think pretty much most of this campus is dedicated to engineering. You can see some of the frost and snow is still left here from a few days ago. And if I turn round to our right, which is just behind me, it's the Harrison Hughes building. We're heading back out now onto Brownlow Hill, and the shops in front of us, which were talked about a little earlier. Subway as well, wow, got them all. So just going to take a quick look back in the direction we've walked from. As you can see, one of the pyramids on Leutchen's crypt of the Metropolitan Cathedral there, and the row of shops. We're going to continue our walk towards the top of Brownlow Hill. Harrison Hughes building here on the left hand side is having a lot of renovation done, and soon we'll be coming to the, well, what is now called the Victoria Gallery and Museum, and I think I'll have a little bit of a chat about that on the walk back, probably get a better view from the other side of the road. So here on the left is the Victoria Gallery and Museum, and in the distance there the new Spine building. That's at the top of Brownlow Hill on what I would call Grove Street. So we've not got too far to go now. And this is the cafe area of the Victoria Gallery and Museum. Quite a fine building, this. Now this building on the left hand side is the Department of Electrical Engineering and Electronics, and it's also part of the University of Liverpool. Right hand side, the Allsop building, which we're just passing, is dedicated to student services. Okay, so before we go too far, I'm going to turn the camera around so we can have a view of where we've come from, and in particular just to take a look at the Victoria Gallery and Museum building there on the right hand side. On the left hand side of the road you can see the Metropolitan Cathedral, and as we make our way up to the top of Brownlow Hill, on the right hand side there, on the very bottom of that building on the right, is Blackwell's bookshop. Now if you're a student, you would spend a lot of time in Blackwell's looking for books on the subject that you are studying, I know when I was a student, I spent quite a long time in Blackwell's ordering books and looking through books that they had on the subject I was studying. So it's been there a long time. Now we're almost at the top of Brownlow Hill now and its junction with Grove Street, and I think the buildings on the right hand side are student accommodation. Now for pretty much most of my life, Brownlow Hill has been my way of entering Liverpool city centre, and I can't really describe to you how much this road has changed since I remember coming down here in the early 1960s. But I'm going to try and show you a photograph which will probably give you an idea of how much this end of the road, Brownlow Hill, has changed. Now we're nearly at the end of Brownlow Hill. You can see in front of us the junction with Grove Street, and on the left there is the Spine building, and next door to it is the Novotel Hotel, and I think that tan building which is in front of us is also student accommodation. I might be wrong with that one, but I think it is. Anyway, before I cross the road and start to walk back down the hill, just take a quick look to our left, and this is the University of Liverpool Computing Services. So just turning in here, this bus would have come from the direction of Upper Parliament Street, which is how we used to enter the city by bus back in the day, and headed off towards the city centre. We're going to take a walk back down Brownlow Hill and have a look at some of the buildings which we may not have had a great view of on the way up. If you've been away from Liverpool for a long time, you probably won't realise how much Liverpool now depends on its students for income. Liverpool's places of learning, its colleges and universities, are now a very big business. And it's not just the fees that young people pay to come here and learn a subject, it's also the money earned from the accommodation, like these on the left hand side here, but it spreads out to terrace houses and to converted pubs and converted churches. The income from learning things in Liverpool is absolutely huge. I said I would show a photograph of what Brownlow Hill used to look like, and this is it. And in the distance there is the Victoria Museum and Gallery, which at this point in its life would have been Liverpool University. But you can see that all the university buildings we've walked past used to be a row of shops, and on the opposite side of the road is a pub. Now I think these are the same shops, I might be wrong, but this photograph states that it's Brownlow Hill. So I guess these are the same shops that were in the previous photo. Now this is where those shops would have been on the right hand side, and they've been replaced by university buildings. This sequence of the video was filmed in 2022, and I was going to put the video out then, but there was a lot of roadworks in this area and I decided to abandon it and come back at a later date. and you can see some of those roadworks here. It just made it a little bit difficult to film some of the buildings on the road. But this is January 2023 and the Mountford Hall. And just over the road is the Victoria building, which is Grade 2 listed. It was designed by Alfred Waterhouse and was completed in 1892. Now, Liverpool Guild of Students, Mountford Hall, is just basically an events venue for talks, theatre and some gigs as well. The Victoria building was the first purpose-built building which was to become the University of Liverpool, and in 2008 it was converted into the Victoria Gallery and Museum. And then we come to this building, the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ the King. And this is Liverpool's Catholic Cathedral. The site for this cathedral was purchased by the Catholic Church in 1930. Now, this cathedral was going to be a lot larger than the cathedral we're all used to seeing today. In fact, what we're going to climb on top of would have been probably the size of the envisaged original Catholic cathedral. But do you know what was here before? I was really shocked to find out that what was here before was probably pretty much as famous as the cathedral is today. The building which once occupied this site started its life as Brownlow Hill Workhouse. It later became Brownlow Hill Infirmary. In fact, I think it was called Brownlow Hill Workhouse and Infirmary in the time in between. Built between 1769 and 1772, the Brownlow Hill Workhouse was built to provide accommodation for Liverpool's poor people. At the beginning of its life, it gave shelter to 600 poor and destitute people. However, as the city grew larger and the population increased, the workhouse struggled to accommodate the growing number of inmates. Consequently, between 1842 and 1843, the workhouse underwent an extensive development, which resulted in one of the biggest workhouses in England. Upon completion of the expansion, the Brownlow Hill site became home to a vast and daunting collection of buildings which were now able to provide accommodation to 3,000 poor, aged or sick members of society. In 1862 there was a large fire, but despite the effects of this fire and many other issues, the workhouse remained open until 1928. In 1930 it was sold to the Catholic Church for £110,000. By today's standards, that's several £1 million. By 1931 the workhouse had been demolished and the 9-acre site had been totally cleared, leaving no remnants of its past. The site would eventually become the Catholic Cathedral which we all know and love today. I say that with a touch of sarcasm because I know there's quite a few people who don't like this cathedral's design. Personally, it's grown on me over the years. I think it's an amazing building. It's a compromise between the old and the new, the original design and the new design. Well, that's pretty much it now. We're looking down towards where we started this video and the new houses on the right hand side, which we walked past when we were on our way up. This video was made over several days. Even some of it was made in previous year, but I've pieced it together as best I can. Weather has been an absolute nightmare at the beginning of January. We've just passed the car park where I've parked, which is the car park for the Adelphi Hotel, and that's a view of even more student buildings which have recently been built. And the building in front of us there at the bottom of Brownlow Hill is Lewis's, or used to be Lewis's, department store, and on the right is the Adelphi. And we're almost back to where we started now, at the 051 Club, which is on the left hand side there. And I thought I'd just show you an old photograph of what this view would have looked like before I was born. I say that because I was born in 1957, and trams were taken out of use in that year. I think this photograph was taken in the mid-1950s though, not long before trams were taken off the roads. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch up soon.